everyone, and welcome to the Justice League vs. Teen Titans Spoilercast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Eric, we once again are more than a month late on one of these, and I feel like we just talked about the last one.
Yeah, I do too. How much? They both came out this year, right?
I think so, and I think the last one we just were really, really late on because I had a hiatus and you hadn't been on the channel for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's the reason that happened. But anyway.
I really wanted, because I was excited because Brian Q. Miller, I was like, well, that's a writer that I kind of like, and he can write Damian. I was really hoping, I was like, you know, all of these have been really bad, and then kind of slowly the Batman movies have been like, Brian's going to okay, I really, really wanted this movie to be good, and I actually really enjoyed this movie.
I did too.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I wish it was just a Teen Titans movie, though. I feel like we could have cut all the Justice League stuff.
I think the problem is that the characterizations and voice acting and stuff of the Justice League that we've had all the way through here is consistent, and that's a problem.
Because we didn't like any of them in the first place, and they haven't gotten any better.
Yeah, man, this Superman is such like a tough guy Superman.
Well, I mean, he's New 52. But, you know what? Even possessed by Trigon, more moral than Batman v Superman.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into that.
By the way, this should have been called Stargates and Starfires.
Right? And the moment that Stargate starts coming out of the sand, you're like, that's a Stargate, right? Like...
I thought it, and then they use it like a Stargate.
Exactly like a Stargate. I've seen this in other things before, but this is even funnier because it's out in the desert, which is where you always see a Stargate, and then she gets in the middle of it toward the end, and it starts spinning around just like a star. I was waiting for somebody that you haven't... I was waiting for Trigon to be like, Chevron 1, lock!
They have to find the seventh seal.
And then she gets rescued by Teal'c.
Yeah. hey, maybe if they did that, they could have gotten, and now I forgot his name. The guy that's in the Stargate movie.
I bet that joke would have been great. Oh, yeah. Boy, it's just been a while.
Well, see, that's my point of reference. I've never seen the show.
Oh! Okay. Well, it's
I was
cool.
making a Stargate movie joke. You were making a Stargate the series joke.
I was.
We're hitting all demographics.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And our Aquaman in the movies now was an Atlantean in Atlantis.
That's true. And this all takes place in the DC universe.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
All Stargate fans have been pleased by this review.
Yeah, or I think there's this bizarre conspiracy where this franchise that they love that nobody's cared about in a long time is being like backdoor resurrected in DC things.
Did Brian Q. Miller work on Stargate?
I don't think he did. I don't know why there's a Stargate. Why did it have to be that and not something else?
Yeah, why not? Like, we kind of have, like, why not just generic demon ritual? They're called Satanists. They say the name Satan in this movie a couple times, and then someone's like, wait, your dad's Satan? She's like, well, he's called Trigon. But, you know, same different.
Okay, so, the other day, I was talking to Steve, and he was like, yeah, that, Justice League vs. Teen Titans thing, was pretty good. And I was like, Steve, you have hated all of these. It was good. He was like, yeah. He was like, it's still got some of the same problems those have had. And by the way, everything I'm saying right now, I agree with too. He says, but it's the most like comic book Teen Titans thing we've ever had because both of the TV shows are kind of more comedic and cartoony. Even even the first one. And I'm not a big Teen Titans guy, so I want to know if you agree with that.
Well, I'm not a huge Teen Titans guy. I've read Jeff's run and a little bit of the classic. The moment this film won me over, well, it's not a moment; it's an extended sequence. But when they go to the carnival,
yeah,
I was just like, okay, you know what? The rest of this film could be terrible. I have to bring up how much I enjoy this sequence because it feels like a teen superhero thing written right. I was completely blindsided by the relationship between Raven and Damien, and that worked so well.
Me too.
I kept waiting for the moment where Beast Boy got jealous, because I watched the old cartoon when I was a kid, and they were always kind of a thing. So like I kept waiting for that moment, and that never happened. So we completely sidestepped like an annoying like love triangle. So like I can't speak to Steve because he's not on this call,
Yeah.
but also because he's reading all of that stuff right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, and I knew you had read more than me because I've read hardly anything Titans. I was impressed that Damien and Raven's relationship didn't go the romance direction at all. Like they just don't even broach that. That's not even a thing. And that they do, you know, like the carnival thing is usually a really romantic kind of setting, and it's about his being accepted by the team and his accepting them, and he and she are kind of the dual protagonists of the piece, I think, and they have obviously a lot in common in their background and with their fathers that, or I guess in his case, a grandfather, but the mystical people that want to control them and make them, follow in their footsteps and everything. And I was really impressed that that relationship worked and didn't have to go the romantic way. But the other Titans are kind of like, I like them, but there's not a whole lot done with them because it's not really an ensemble piece thing. It's kind of more just about those two characters. And then when you get to the end of it, I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of a tie-up thing for those two characters.
For Raven and Damien?
For Raven and Damien, yeah.
Well, I think there's certainly seeds for the possibility of a romantic relationship.
Well, I didn't
because
need it to be
because the first time
I just wanted them to have one more conversation or something. You like about their experience, you know what I mean? Because they had both been through something together, and I just wanted them to have like a moment where they talked about it.
Yeah, well, and obviously damaged people kind of gravitate towards people that are similarly damaged, and they're really similar.
Yeah, and like, is that a comic book thing, or are those characters that we've done anything with together?
Not as far as I know.
Like, if that's new, Miller was really thinking there. I mean, like because not just in their backgrounds, but even in their personalities.
They're very similar, and they're also very different.
Sure.
Because while they're both no nonsense, Raven is completely introverted, whereas Damien is kind of angry and aggressive. Damien still respects his grandfather, and he talks in this movie about like it was going to be great, like we were going to make the world a better place, whereas Raven hates her father. So it's really interesting that they're very similar and very different, and I feel like we play off the two of them really well.
Yeah.
I
guess the other thing I was gonna say that they hadn't got was just that they're both really self-disciplined.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
being super young.
Well, and she's younger than I usually think of her. I think they say she's 14.
And that's probably just to make that work a little better.
Well, it's weird because Starfire feels older, but I'm not really sure how old Starfire is supposed to be.
She seems like she's like the Professor Xavier of that school, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like I imagined a sign on the door that said like Starfire's like T-square for gifted youngsters.
And she has to at least be in her 20s. Otherwise, that whole thing between her and Dick Grayson is really creepy.
Yeah, sure.
Brian Q. Miller has continued his streak of being the only non-Grant Morrison person to be able to write Damien as a likable character. Because I was really worried when this started up. Because I haven't liked Damien in any of these films.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I liked him a little bit more in the last one, but, just a smidge.
But I genuinely liked him in this film.
Yeah, and I came around on him. I mean, Damien's a character I don't generally like and just find myself not, he just doesn't generally resonate with me, and I find him really whiny and irritating. And there were it was nice that there were consequences for him acting that way at the beginning of this, and he had to kind of turn around. This is the character arc you want to see with that character.
Well, and the other thing that I have not liked in any of these films that this film actually did something with was Cyborg. I was going into this, I was like, how are they even possibly going to do Cyborg in this? Because he's been with the Justice League the entire time. I love that he meets up with the Teen Titans and he's like, oh, this is a team that's my age. I can hang out with these people.
Yeah.
That never even occurred to me of like, oh yeah, like everyone is way older than him in the Justice League. He would just want to hang out with the Teen Titans. That was really cool, and I really like that.
But once again, the problem with it is, and it's a credit to the film, I guess, is that it makes the Justice League feel not just superfluous in this movie, but kind of like stolid and wooden and dull. Where, like, you want to spend all your time with the Titans, and every time we go back to the Justice League, it's like, oh yeah, and these, like, cardboard cutouts. Like, what's weird is, suddenly people have personalities in this universe, and we didn't really have that as much before. I mean, we started to have more of that with Bad Blood, because we have Batwoman and stuff, and, I mean, like, this seems like, it seems like we've got this kind of staircase of quality, improving between, Bad Blood and this. And it's because first of all, we're doing the straight up kooky, silly comic book stuff at the beginning of this,
which we tend to start with an action scene in these. I really wish, because I was watching the time. That opening action scene is like 7 minutes. That is 7 minutes of runtime.
Yeah,
I would have cut that out. But the Justice League needs something to do with this movie.
I think that about a lot of these, but I'll take up for it a little bit by saying that, first of all, and maybe it's my imagination, but I thought it was a little bit shorter than some of those have been.
It felt really long to me. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, because I never go back and rewatch these. But
yeah, but I feel, well, and let me say that this is one I actually probably will go back and watch at least one more time.
I'm going to actually purchase this on DVD.
Well, I mean, you know, if I ever get to everything on Rewind, I'll obviously do this for Rewind. But this is one I would actually maybe even put in again, just to watch, because there's enough fun stuff in it that I really enjoyed. But also, I think I might pick up on some character stuff a second time. Like, there's actually a story here. Like, there's stuff to sink your teeth into. I'm not saying it's brilliant, but it's good. I mean, it's legitimately good.
And there's things that felt off to me that I'm sure. Maybe it won't, but specifically with Starfire, twice in this movie, there's like a comment towards her where they're like, you did a good job, as if her not being good at leading the team was a thing in this movie.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
And I wonder if I rewatch it, if that might actually be built up to more.
Who had that line?
I just missed it because I was paying attention to other things.
Who had that line? Because I don't even remember that.
It happens twice, and I know one of the times it's Superman.
Well, I mean,
I think Batman says something, and then Superman has that's actually a good plan.
Well, it's probably just because they're thought of as like the B team and the Misfits, because they do deal with that a little bit. Like, the word freak comes up a lot.
Did it? I didn't even catch that, or at least it didn't resonate with me.
Yeah, the Titans, like I think Jaime says that once or twice, and there's a couple other people that say it.
He is not on the cover,
and has nothing to do in this.
Yeah.
Except just to have the Scarab, like, just to kind of introduce the fact that he's, you know, got the Scarab, and to have it, you know, occasionally, like, leap out at people and stuff. Like, I guess we're jumping around a little bit. There was something else I was going to say, but I guess I'll go to this place real quick. One of the big issues I have with this, just moving forward, if we are moving forward, and we'll talk about that, is it's another setup movie, and so many of these have kind of felt that way. I appreciate the fact that it's not an origin for this team. I really didn't expect them to actually be put together already, and I'm glad we did that. But
and they're not just put together; they have a history.
They have a history,
because it's very clear that Nightwing used to be on this team.
See, I wasn't sure about that. Like, I got that he had a history with Starfire, but I wasn't sure if he had actually been on the team or how long these particular members had been put together.
I got the impression that he'd been on the team.
I got more of the sense that it was kind of a newer thing,
tower.
and that she like put them all together maybe not all that long ago. It's interesting. I think you and I are looking at that very differently, which tells you something about the movie, unless one of us just wasn't paying close enough.
Well, and that might also just be that, like, in my head, I associate those characters as being on the team together.
Yeah, and see, I didn't do that.
Although I also associate Raven and Beast Boy on the team with them, so
that image at the very end, when right before they go to the closing credits, that has Nightwing standing there with them, I thought was really strange, because I'm like, he's not even a part of this movie. He's not on this team. And
yeah, that was really weird. And I was like, wait, was he supposed to be part of this team? Because I'd like it if he was part of this team, but...
And that makes me think that maybe that's a little bit of evidence to what you're talking about, where he was supposed to have at one point been on that team, but he's, like, gone off on his own now.
Or if we do another Titans movie, he'll be on the team, which they set up in the mid-credit scene.
Yeah, who was that? That's not a character I know.
That's Tara. She is from the most famous Titan story of all time, Judas Contract.
Okay.
She is.
I've heard of her. Right.
She's the one that betrays them to Slade.
I'm in no way whatsoever qualified to talk about this, because I'm not into Teen Titans, but it certainly made me more interested in looking at that stuff, and I think that's the highest praise I can give it. That, like, one of these movies got me more interested in characters I don't know.
Well, and I had the same thing. I was like, man, I really should go back and read through all that Perez stuff that, like, I've only skimmed.
Yeah, Raven is awesome.
Raven's fantastic,
I love
and
everything
and when
about her. And she's like a perfect. She's you get this with a lot of things, but it felt fresh again. Like she's that perfect metaphor for the outcast teenager who's trying to fit in, but he doesn't fit in, and is trying not to be her parents. It's I feel like a lot of people would resonate with, like, this would resonate with. And then it makes me wish that they would just drop the whole trying to make it seem adult and throw random swear words in here and there, because kids should be able to watch this.
Oh, man. I have two notes about that.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I'm sorry, we're jumping around a lot. There's a lot of different things that are popping up while we're talking, but...
So there's a point, and maybe you remember, because like I said, I never rewatched these.
Yeah.
Did we establish previously that Wonder Woman and Superman are a couple? I know they are in the New 52.
I spent this whole movie trying to remember if that had been established or not, and I think maybe it was, but the Justice League movies especially have been completely unmemorable.
That would have been in Throne of Atlantis, I think, but I don't.
You know what? I think it was in there.
Okay, because I know it's not in war, because there's no time for anything in war.
And I really disliked it. No, it's not in war. I don't think. But anyway.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. So Clark and Diana.
You're gonna talk about the movie thing, aren't you?
They go to the movies,
yep.
And she walks out and says, "I didn't appreciate all the unnecessary language." And I was like, "In this film,
this movie?" Yep, I had the same note. What is that doing there? And then, of course, 2 scenes later, you have more of those, and you're like, why did we put that line in here? And then it made me, and I don't want to read too far into it, then it made me wonder if Miller wasn't, like, making fun of that, and that maybe there's even, like, a quota of them or something, where, like, he's expected to put those in because they have to get it to PG-13.
Having heard him talk about Smallville, having been a writer on Smallville, and
he's real open, right?
Make fun of Smallville and the tropes of Smallville,
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's an intentional dig. Or at least a self-referential joke. The most abrasive of all of the unnecessary language in this film, although I will say, this film gets kind of dark at the end. And I appreciate that they actually say, like, Satanist. It's not just, like, generic cultist. Like, I thought that was kind of taking advantage of being a PG-13 movie as opposed to, like, a TV show, because we would never hear that on a TV show.
But it doesn't do that until the last 10 minutes, and so it feels intrusive before that.
Yeah. But so there is a DDR match-off between Damien and Beast Boy.
Yeah.
And when Damien wins, which, by the way, is that a thing at carnivals? Do we have big screens attached to DDR pads?
I mean, there's stuff like that sometimes. Like I've seen like, you know, big video game setups and stuff in tournaments at carnivals and carnival-like setups. But
okay.
I feel like and I mean DDR is still around, and by the way, I actually really liked that, and I thought it was cool that they sort of invented their own DDR pad. That like it's not a standard DDR pad; it's kind of their own thing, but it works, and like, you know, you could totally have that layout, but it seemed like almost an outdated reference.
It kind of did. Like it would be like if it was like Rock Band or something. And you're like, well, I mean, I know people still do that, but it's not.
It's like
thing.
It's like a person trying to write, and again, he's doing a really good job of making these teenagers feel like real people for the most part. I mean, there's some, you know, there's things here and there that seem kind of, you know, typical and melodramatic, but that did seem a little bit like an older person trying to remember being a teenager. And, like, you kind of have to find the modern equivalent, but then I guess that would just be whatever your dance thing is on Xbox One or whatever. Like, it'd be motion control as opposed to, or like motion sensor as opposed to actually having a pad, and then that doesn't look as cool on film, like it's not as visual.
Yeah. So anyways, they're having this dance-off.
Sorry.
Which they do a fantastic job of, just through movement, showing the differences between Damien and Beast Boy. Because Damien says when he walks up, he does not know how to play. And they do a fantastic job of just visually animating him, slowly picking it up, learning it, and then getting really good at it. It's also really funny because we cut away to Raven. She has a whole scene with her dad. Then we cut back and they're still dancing. And I thought that was funny.
That is the longest DDR song in the history of DDR songs.
So anyways, to finally get to my complaint, or at least part of this unnecessary language, when Damien wins, the screen says "badass winner." And that was unnecessary, but I also thought it was funny, so maybe that's the point? I don't know.
Yeah, that one didn't bother me actually. I mean, obviously, if this wasn't a PG-13 thing, that wouldn't be there.
Yeah, this is on Cartoon Network.
But I sort of bought it because, like, if memory serves, and I just watched this once a couple hours ago, but like, if memory serves, I think you're putting like. This is so nitpicky that we're even talking about this. I think you're looking at like two parts of the screen and putting them together because I think the idea is because one of them says badass and then the other one says something else, and I think it's like a made up like rank of how well you did.
Oh, okay. That's still unnecessary language, but
I mean, I agree with you, but it was, you know, much more intrusive in places where just everyone says hell everywhere. Like, not that that's like, really profane, but it takes me out a little bit.
It works once. Cyborg makes it work once.
Well, and that makes you wish they didn't do it anywhere else, because then it would be, you know, where does he say it that you're saying it works once?
When he radios to Just League, he says I'm going to Just League. I'm going to hell.
Oh well, yeah, but that's not the same thing.
I know, but again, you're only going to get that in a PG-13 movie.
Maybe.
I don't think you can get that on Cartoon Network.
I don't even know. Yeah, not Cartoon Network, but. Anyway, I mean, I realize that we kind of harp on this on every movie, but again, it's a testament to this thing that it didn't even.
It doesn't bother me as much because I feel like this film gets a little bit darker by the end. That I don't want to say it earns it. It doesn't bother me as much as it did in the Just League films, where it feels completely superfluous.
And the writing in general is just better than it has been.
This is the only film since we've rebooted I laughed out loud at one line.
What was that?
Superman has the most insane extension of the generic, how long do you need to hack this thing? 2 days. You have 24 hours. He breaks Flash's leg
Oh, that was ridiculous.
And he says, how long do you need to heal? And Flash is like an hour. And he goes, you have 5 minutes.
He says 10 minutes. And I'm like, Superman, you basically just said to Flash, you better get to healing. You better sit there and heal it. That's how long you have.
I laughed out loud at that line.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was meant to be fun. Again, like...
I don't know. In that specific line, I do not know if I was laughing with it or at it. I want to believe it was with it.
I don't know if Miller is intentionally trying to be consistent with how this Superman has been written, and Batman 2 to a degree, I guess, where like he's kind of cold and unemotional and feels kind of detached. And I don't know if he's like... I don't know if he's making fun of that in places. I feel that with a few things where I want to complain about it because it's the thing they've been doing with all of these, but then like I think he might be doing it in a tongue-in-cheek way, but then I might be giving him too much credit, so I'm not sure. But it reminds me a little bit of like Neil Gaiman coming in and writing one issue of Spawn and obviously just completely making fun of the fact that Spawn just sits around in an alley and mopes all the time.
Well, and it should be noted, I can't think of any instance of anything like that with the Teen Titans. I can only think of things like that with the Justice League, where I'm like, is that a joke?
I think
they might be jokes.
I felt like he was going out of his way in this to try to make it look more like the fully formed and like fun DC universe that is like it's not taking itself too seriously like it was before, and it's still got these Justice League characters that are doing that because that's where they came from, but it's almost like we've like backed off a little bit and looked at more of the rest of the universe at large, and like they've got to catch up at some point and stop being so like dark and angsty and stuff, because that's not the world they live in. And that's why I'm taking up a little bit for him with that opening action scene, because I think it establishes the tone of this really well.
That opening action scene has, again, I don't know whether it was intentional or not.
Yeah.
And I this time, I think it was unintentional. One of the funniest lines in a superhero film, because the first thing we hear is a news reporter saying, the Justice League are fighting what could only be referred to as supervillains.
Yes!
Are you saying this is the first time anyone... We've seen Batman movies. We know that supervillains exist.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of things that I don't know what else you would call them. I mean, like... we're saying that you're still looking at comic books. Maybe they don't call them supervillains, but that's hilarious. And then what was as funny as that? Really, that whole news broadcast thing at the opening. Really, it sets the tone for it. It's like, okay, he's going absurd and kind and hopefully on purpose, and then the rest of the movie I think matches okay. But like,
the more we talk about it, I feel like there are too many lines like that for it to not be intentional.
Yeah, there are things I questioned that I'm starting to not question as we're talking about it. Which is cool. And maybe I'm giving it too much credit. I'm not sure, but like the more we talk about it, I'm liking it even more than I did while I was watching it. But anyway,
oh man, you should try and get an interview with Brian Q. Miller to just ask him about this movie. Like, I know you've done all of these other things, but I just want to ask you: were you joking in Justice League versus Teen Titans?
Well, see, I almost talked to him once.
Yeah, and you hadn't read the Smallville comic, right?
Yeah, I hadn't read the Smallville comics, and I decided that, like, I had an opportunity to talk to him, and I decided not to because I didn't want to pretend like I like Smallville more than I do to talk to him. And then I discovered later, after you told me you had read interviews with him, that I probably would have been fine.
Yeah, he probably would have joked right along with you.
Yeah, you know what? I might try to get him at some point. But anyway, he sounds fun. I would love to talk to him. But he's also got that line in that opening news broadcast thing where he's like, where she says that like social media has come to call the new Justice League headquarters the Hall of Justice.
Yes.
That's so funny. It's like the Legion of Doom is just straight up called the Legion of Doom. Like, those are the three things in there. 2 out of the 3 are not official terms. It's like they're calling themselves the Legion of Doom. And social media is calling that the Hall of Justice. I really, so it's like maybe he is doing this on purpose because I was sitting there. Obviously, this is opening and this is the first like 60 seconds of the thing, and I'm like, really, guys, like we can't just have things be called what they're called. We have to like try to come up with this like backdoor real world thing that makes it seem even hokier. Especially if you're gonna actually have the Hall of Justice there and it looked like it did in Super Friends. You kind of should just go all the way if you're gonna have that. Like they're not even doing the satellite. It's like well maybe they also have the satellite. I don't remember, but it's like we've got the Hall of Justice, and I really wanted. Of course, I'm kidding because you couldn't go this far. I really wanted after that at some place for there to be a narrator that's like, meanwhile, at what social media calls the Hall of Justice.
That's really good.
That thing, and like, you mentioned a thing that really got you into that was, like, first 60 seconds, I was like, I don't know, there's something different about this movie. I also was kind of impressed that we had Lex Luthor in a fight and it wasn't a movie about Lex Luthor.
Yeah, and he's voiced by Steve Bloom. Voicing legend Steve Bloom.
Oh, I didn't even look that up.
Well, I recognize his voice. I've heard Steve Bloom in enough things. I know what Steve Bloom sounds like.
Yeah.
Steve Bloom has been Wolverine. I actually have some notes about the voice actors.
Sure.
Okay, so this is late to the party, but do you know who voices Cyborg?
I mean, I'm looking at his name, Shamar Moore, but I don't know who that is.
He is the detective on Birds of Prey.
Oh, that is who that is! Oh, that's so cool!
Okay,
why is he voicing someone that young?
Well,
dude is 46!
What acting? You didn't notice that he was her?
No, I didn't, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's... Okay, I shouldn't have phrased it. I was just like, that's amazing, because he sounds a lot younger than he is in that. I love that guy in that show.
Yeah, me too. That's why I brought it up. I was like, oh, we haven't mentioned this, and I just found this out. Okay, so Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, is voiced by Jake T. Austin. Do you know who Jake T. Austin is?
Mm-mm. I didn't immediately recognize most of these names.
He is Diego from Go Diego Go.
Oh, okay. I would.
Which just kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh, hey, he grew up.
What's sad is they've still got Rosario Dawson doing Wonder Woman, and with all respect to her, and I like her a lot, I don't like a Wonder Woman at all.
I don't either. I love Rosario Dawson. I think she's a fantastic actress.
Like it just this is gonna sound really really bad to people, but like I didn't remember that voice was hers. I thought it was in. She doesn't do a lot, but like I thought it was kind of the weakest thing in the vocal performance in the movie, and it feels like she's kind of just phoning it in, like they're not giving her the rest of the script to know what the context even is of the scene she's in. Like it just doesn't sound natural to me.
Which might be true. I mean, she's the biggest actor involved in this cast.
Yeah.
She might just not have the time.
Maybe
okay.
so. I mean, because I'm not trying to be mean to it. It's just I can't sit here and say it's a great performance just because it's an actress that's a good actress that I like. It's not a good vocal performance.
All right, and Beast Boy is voiced by Brandon Suhu. Which have you seen Tropic Thunder?
No, I still haven't.
Okay, I'm sure our viewers have. There is a terroristic child warlord in that film, and it's Brandon Suhu. So that means nothing to you, but I'm sure some of our viewers will know exactly who I'm talking about. He's kind of the main villain of the movie.
Well, this will be more obscure to people, but I just looked this up. The guy who plays Superman, Jerry O'Connell, is the guy from Sliders.
Yeah, you don't know who Jerry O'Connell is?
No, I didn't right away.
He's also in Scream 2. He's in Dude, Where's My Car? He also voices Captain Marvel / Shazam in like everything from Justice League forward.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, weirdly, I know Jerry O'Connell's like acting history. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Strange. Yeah. Eric's not looking that up. He just knows that off the top of his head, apparently.
Yeah. No. I just know it off the top of my head. And then Raven, I don't actually know, but she is on 2 seasons, and it looks like for the whole season, not like she has like an appearance. She is in 2 seasons of American Horror Story, which is not a show I watch, but other people do. So
no telling if we're gonna get more of these, but I loved Raven. I mean, as much as I love that character and the vocal performance, I mean, I thought she was fantastic. She needs to get more things to do, like be it they make a more serious Teen Titans show or they make more of these, but like just so that actress gets to voice this again, she needs to get to be featured in stuff.
She just became like the go-to Raven. Like if Raven shows up in a video game, like it's her voice. Like I would like to see her just as the Raven.
I really liked how understated and deadpan she was. And there was...
and I didn't initially like her. The first scene she has, I was like, oh, this sounds, I don't know, like too young. And then like I adjusted to her voice, and I really liked her performance.
Well, I think it helped, being contrasted with Damien a lot. I mean, like I don't know if I would have liked her as much if that hadn't been the thing that we were comparing it to. The sounding.
Well, and I haven't liked Damien's voice actor, and I liked him in this.
I liked him a lot in this too. Yeah, I don't know. He suddenly started to fit when we put him with Teen Titans. Let's talk a little bit about the future of this, or if there's going to be one. The only thing slated after this for the direct-to-video movies is Killing Joke, and because of Rebirth, you gotta really wonder if they're going to do any more of these.
Or at least any more in this quote-unquote continuity?
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, like, I'm sure they'll make more direct-to-video movies, but, like, will they stay in this continuity? I mean, I realize that Rebirth isn't a straight-up reboot, but we are getting away from the 52 aesthetic and the tone of that and all that. So, like, what I'd love to see would be, and this would be the time to do it, because of the lighter tone, lighter, way, the more, comic booky and... the more classic comic booky, less angsty, everybody's got to be, like, as dark and serious as we can make them, because that's realistic. Getting away from that kind of thing. I would like to see this continuity do exactly what Rebirth is doing.
Yeah, well, is this the first time in all of our talking that we haven't had anything slated for the future?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know, that's weird. That makes me think maybe there's some kind of restructuring or refocusing going on. So we might carry on to this, or we could go back to what we were doing before, or I don't know. I feel like anything's possible. The producer James Tucker specifically stated that buying the DVD and Blu-ray would increase the chances of Titans appearing in future DC animated and live-action films. I highly doubt purchasing or not purchasing this DVD will influence a Teen Titans film being made.
Yeah, we're putting we're acting like these have more clout than they do, maybe, when we say that. Although I don't know. I mean, like, I think anything that's in the public eye could get something popular. And
I mean, if this movie blew up, I'm sure it would have something.
But we haven't seen that happen with anything that wasn't based on a major story arc in a really long time.
Yeah.
As far as these, direct-to-video movies things go. But I also can't imagine that they'll stop making direct-to-video movies after Killing Joke, just based on, like, sales, because they've held steady. They don't make a lot of money, but they've made enough. They felt the need to keep making them, like, twice a year since 2007.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'd like to say, I usually just get these out of the red box and then never think about them again. Are they called red boxes? For a split second, I was like, is that the wrong thing? Yeah,
yes, Eric, that's red box.
I just had like a split second where I was like, is that what they're actually called? But yeah, I usually just get these out of the red box and never think about them again. And then, of course, my red box fees go astronomically high, but I'm not paying them. But I would recommend actually purchasing this DVD because I think it's good. And if nothing else, I do think if this film sales are good or better than the previous films, I think there's a good chance we'll get the Teen Titans, like not the Justice League, just the Teen Titans. I would love to see them do Judas Contract, especially since that was originally intended to happen after New Frontier. That was in their original slate. They were going to do a Teen Titans Judas Contract film.
Well, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but like I liked these characters a lot more than the Justice League characters. So, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, what I'd love to see would be those characters getting a little bit more fun and loose and feeling like they've got a little bit of personality and some depth to them. Past this, I mean, like I think this would be a really good springboard to make those characters worth watching in a way they haven't been before. And weirdly, Cyborg is now kind of like the linchpin.
He's like the go-between. Like I can see him both in Justice League and Teen Titans films.
But like I also think that he's kind of like I usually don't like him, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think he would be instrumental in making those characters more fun to watch.
Well, and
because he's the only one of them that feels natural in this, like of the original characters that we have, because like you said, he's a go-between. So like we need him to bring those characters out of their shells.
Well, and it's the first time he feels like a teenager, because in War he's just all tragedy, and then in Throne of Atlantis I feel like he's just there. In this, he gets to be fun because he's hanging out with people his age.
Yeah, and I had this moment, like, I should have thought of this. I didn't. You were talking about how you're like, well, how's this going to work? Because he's usually a Teen Titans character, and he's been with Justice League this whole time. I had this moment where I went, oh yeah, of course we're talking about whether or not he would stay with the Teen Titans, and we had to like contrive a way to have him be the one of the Justice League that stays back and gets his demon wraith thing taken out of him so that he can be with the Teen Titans for a while. There are some, and that's one of my gripes, is that there are some contrivances here and there because it wants to juggle these characters to be in certain places at certain times.
Well, and the shooting the demon out thing, I couldn't find the through line with any of that.
That seemed no, me neither. Well, first of all, it seemed totally arbitrary that Cyborg was the one that Damian shot right then.
Right.
Where I'm like, why Cyborg? You could have shot any of the Justice League. I guess he was the closest one to you. Maybe that was why you did that. But you're right. It's totally inconsistent how you get the demons out of people. What's with the lasso of truth? How does that work?
It's magic.
But, like, at the beginning of the movie, Wonder Woman uses the lasso and gets gets a demon out of somebody. I forget who. Out of, I think, Weather Wizard. And then, toward the end, she's got the lasso roped around Superman for, like, several minutes! And the demon stays in for a long time, and it's the kryptonite that gets the demon out. I'm like, how does it work? Like, why did the lasso make the demon leave in the first place, but not that? And the way she uses it is, it's like it was almost like the lasso compels you to leave, and the demon leaves. And then later, she just doesn't think to say that, and so the demon stays in him for a while.
See,
I don't know.
You understand, Kryptonian biology breaks down on the subatomic demon level, and so a demon actually roots itself deeper in a Kryptonian than it would in the mind of a human. So it's much harder to get out. It takes a longer period of time.
See, Eric is so surprised he liked this movie that he has to make up stuff to make it work.
Oh, it doesn't make sense. None of the none of the getting demons out of people is really consistent. Like, it's kind of pain, but it also seems to be tied to yourself. Like, the only possible thing that Superman can do to get it out of Wally, or it was not Wally, it's just the Flash.
Just to break his leg?
Was to break his ankle. Superman got stabbed with kryptonite. Batman cannot be beaten and just shot himself up with like an anti-venom toxin.
Yeah, because he's Batman.
Yeah, because he's Batman. But I was going to say something about.
Okay, so how does that? Okay. So, but I want you to tell me how that works with Weather Wizard then, because what does putting a rope around someone have to do with weather powers?
We'll see. Rope is made from trees, and that's nature.
And that's nature. Yeah. Okay. Oh, speaking of that opening, I gotta ask you this real quick because we have Weather Wizard. And that was kind of a fun, eclectic assortment of characters at the beginning, and
it was,
and a lot of them are usually Legion of Doom characters. I didn't know there was a character named Toy Master.
I've never heard of him. I think that's
just Toy Man, and they put Master there instead. But they played him like because wasn't it Cyborg that fought him most of that fight? And it made me think that they were playing it like maybe that's the first big character in Cyborg's Rogues Gallery for this. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe I
just
we do have
down,
the power
I was
of the
the
internet.
Wikipedia page open. I just scrolled down to see if I could click Weather Master to see if it would just take me, or not, sorry, Weather Master, Toy Master to see if it would take me to Toy Man. And wouldn't you know it, he's the only person on the cast not listed on Wikipedia.
Well, when you... Okay, it's an Earth 1 thing?
Oh, is it like an alternate name from a different Earth that they just kind of co-opted?
I think so, yeah. The only thing I'm finding it in is Crisis, but when you look up Toymaster on Google, immediately the first thing it puts up is Toyman. I don't know why they called him that.
It just sounds cooler than Toy Man.
It does sound. It sounds really cool. And also, like I said, I think they're just trying to. They're like, well, Cyborg doesn't really have a Rogues Gallery, so we have to give him someone to fight. It seems like his own thing.
Yeah. Well, and then Atomic Skull showed up, and he is way less cool looking than he was in Superman vs. the Elite.
Oh, and Superman vs. the Elite too. Yeah. Did you think it was funny that when Cyborg got possessed by one of the demons, he had a cyborg eye on top of his cyborg eye?
Yes, I thought that was fantastically comic book funny.
That's so goofy. Why would it work like that? Why wouldn't he just have...
That's like when somebody pulls their face off and it was a mask the whole time and underneath was Batman, but his ears weren't popping through.
Yeah,
it's just a great comic book thing.
Okay, I have another question about the big climax at the end. Is it supposed to be ambiguous as to whether or not that's actually the soul of Ra's al Ghul, or is the fact that when he gets his head chopped off and it's a demon head, does that mean that it definitely wasn't Ra's al Ghul?
I got that it was not Ra's al Ghul. It was like Scarecrow, like the fear toxin kind of thing, where like you're seeing what you want to see. That was my impression, but there's no reason it couldn't be Ra's al Ghul in hell. I mean,
yeah, considering it is kind of a literal hell. I wasn't positive. I really wanted it to not actually be Ra's al Ghul because that all just seemed like a little bit too easy, and like we're literally pulling these two characters together as we have been, thematically. Like I wasn't sure, especially because it was already. I already thought that it was pretty coincidental that the main threat for this movie just happens to be connected to Raven, who Damian is meeting in a way that's completely disconnected to all that.
I feel like it would feel less contrived if the Justice League wasn't in this movie. If the Justice League wasn't involved in this plot. Like that is a perfectly fine plot. In fact, it's the first issue of New Teen Titans is they deal with Trigon.
I mean, I don't mind that they're dealing with Trigon. I just thought it was weird that the threat, and I guess I appreciate the fact that opening scene has something to do with the rest of the movie, that they're not just having a big, they are having a big fight with people that aren't connected, but then suddenly Trigon shows up. But Trigon's going after the Justice League at the beginning.
That's all kind of contrived.
That's pretty contrived. That's all I'm saying. And then like Damian gets sent off. He does a thing that ticks Batman off because he's being rebellious and not listening to him, and so he gets sent off to boarding school, which turns out to be the Teen Titans Tower, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, are we suggesting that he's part of the Justice League in the opening of this film?
I don't know, or that.
Like, why did Batman bring his kid along?
Why did he bring him with him? Yeah, I don't know. Does he usually bring him on Justice League missions? Yeah, that's a really good question. But I'm just saying.
Also, another question for Batman, worst parent of the year. So you're all about no killing. Why do you let your kid carry around a sword?
I was speaking of swords.
Also, one of my favorite. Oh, sorry, I was going to say something about the sword.
Oh,
you were also going to say something about the sword.
I was just going to say, well, let's call this a stalemate, friend. I suppose neither of us will ever talk about swords. I was going back to the carnival scene.
That's also where I was going back to. We might be making the same point.
I was just going to say I was surprised to actually be sort of moved at all with one of these movies, and specifically when he wins the flashy sword and gives it to a little kid.
Oh, that's not where I was going. Although I did like that scene. I thought he was going to give it to Raven. And then he looks over and sees that little kid and gives it to her. I was like, oh, that's a really nice touch.
They kept subverting it where there were all these moments that it could have gone the romance direction, and we kept skirting around them. I don't think Damian is in a place, is in a headspace yet, emotionally or otherwise, where he would be even thinking about dating someone.
That's true.
And I really like that we didn't go. And Raven wouldn't either. Like, that's the thing.
I think Raven might, but in a very teenagery way. She's 14. She's thinking about boys. She might not be actually ready for a relationship, which I actually think would be a really interesting. If we did another one of these. See, there's so many places to go from here. I really hope we get another one. I think it would be really interesting to put them in a relationship because neither of them are specifically emotionally ready for this. And so you would have someone who is kind of emotionally distant, and then you would have with Damian someone who probably was raised to think that relationships are really just for breeding. Like they're not full, like I don't think he was really raised with the sense of a relationship.
No, of course not. I mean, I
think you could go really interesting places with the two of them. But my thing with the sword, I loved it's, and we don't see this in these animated films. We don't see setups and payoffs. I love that he brings his sword to the carnival, and he says something about always being prepared, and then bad things happen, and everyone else has superpowers, and he has to go get the sword, and the door is locked, and he busts the window.
Oh, and it didn't even occur to me that that was a payoff for that. That's great. Yeah, and he gets ticked off because he's like, well, you know what? It's Sapphire's fault for like I'm gonna have to break her window, and like. Isn't that really cool? Like, you buy that he had to do that, and that, like, yeah, he needs something to defend himself with.
And it's played as a joke before, so you don't. It's not one of those things like, oh, you can hear that Chekhov's gun cocking.
Yeah.
It's played as a joke where you're like, oh, ha, he brought a sword. And he's not allowed to bring it on the field trip, kind of a thing. And I never thought for a second when I saw that, oh, he's going to need it later.
Well, I really like that because it shows that they're trying to demonstrate that Damian is sometimes right about things.
Yeah.
That like his point of view isn't completely out there and daft. Like it's extreme, but he
did in fact need that sword.
Yeah, and being prepared is important, and like having interpersonal relationships and caring about people and treating them as people is also important. And then this is pretty cool because those are all things Batman struggles with.
Well, and if we did another movie, another thing that we have material to play with is the fact that he had to run back to the car. Everyone else has superpowers.
Yeah.
If he's just hanging out with them, he doesn't have equipment. He can't really do much.
Well, it's great, and it's too bad that we couldn't have put this more at the fore and really explored this. And again, like we keep saying, I guess you could with another movie. But if you did another movie, you would expect it to be just a Teen Titans thing. Not to have more Justice League.
I would certainly hope so.
So it's too bad that we didn't contrast the two teams more, because I didn't think of Damian as the Batman of that team, but he would be.
Oh, absolutely.
In a lot of ways, and it'd be cool to then do a movie where you've got the Batman of that team in that he doesn't have powers and he has to always use his brain, and he's more focused and less quippy than everybody else there, and that serves as, you know, a that helps him, but it's also a detriment sometimes. But not have him have the "I'm Batman" thing.
Yeah. Sorry, I just keep coming up with really cool ideas for what you could do in another one. Because you were talking about the contrast, and Starfire is the leader. So her parallel would be Superman. Because they're both aliens and the leader. Wouldn't it be really interesting if we got another movie? If there was some kind, if Cyborg's going to stay sticking around, he's played with the big leagues. He should be in charge from his point of view.
Yeah.
And now you've got conflict for those characters.
Although that power struggle could be irritating depending on how you played it, but you're right.
Well, I'm just saying. Based on the two Justice League movies, I have no ideas for where to take those characters.
No, me neither. I got nothing.
I would love to see another movie with these characters. This film does a great job of playing with these characters and leaving threads to be played with later.
Yeah, and it's super frustrating because it's impressive where it gets to and how much I enjoyed it from where it was before, but then you also really kind of wish it wasn't in this continuity and it could it could maybe start something new.
I don't have a problem being in this continuity unless we reboot and this movie is wiped out. Unless like the animated universe reboots and then this is just set up to nothing. I don't remember.
And you have a movie called The Flashpoint Paradox, or the Flashpoint Paradox.
I just wish it wasn't a Justice League movie.
Yeah,
like I wish this was called Teen Titans, and maybe the Justice League show up in the beginning, where to turn over Damian, and then maybe they also show up at the end to get turned into demons to fight.
Well,
which I guess is kind of what happens, but we keep cutting back to the Justice League, and I feel like there's more screen time that could have been given to the Titans.
It's trying really hard to give them maybe not equal screen time. You can't really do that because you've got to establish these characters that people might not be familiar with. But and just these versions of them.
Well, and the carnival scene we give completely to the Titans. That's like a 10-minute scene, and we do not cut to the Justice League.
Yeah. So it's trying to warrant the fact that it decided to make it a Justice League and Teen Titans thing, and obviously that's a commercial thing.
This is kind of
we can't sell these if they we can't sell these unless they've got Justice League or Batman or Superman in the title. So there's Justice League, and then like you said, if this sells well, maybe they could do one down the road. Didn't work with Wonder Woman.
I really hope that when we get like the next slate of films, 2 or 3 films, I really hope Teen Titans Juice contract is there. Although I don't want this universe's slate, so can we either recast or just make that a different character? That'd be great.
And again, that's why it is a little bit problematic to me that it's in this universe, because you have to start having this Justice League kind of just act totally out of character for me to start really liking them. Because
wait, is Slade dead? Did Damian cut Slade's head off? Is that a thing that happened at the end of Batman's Son? It's been like 3 years since I saw that film.
See, this was sort of... I mean, I saw this a few hours ago, but this, I think, might be sort of memorable. That one wasn't.
No, that one wasn't memorable at all, but I'm just trying to remember whether he's dead or not. I would just ignore those other films and just use this as the new starting point. This is a soft reboot film.
That's... Yeah, I mean, that if you could, that'd be great. But yeah, think about those parallels, and then like just I guess in personality, and in being like the most like kiddish and sort of juvenile of the team. I guess Beast Boy is their Flash.
Yes. Yeah. I guess if you're going by the parallels, and Raven would be Wonder Woman because she's the outsider.
Yeah, and super powerful and guarded and mysterious.
And then I guess Cyborg would be the Cyborg?
Well, yeah, but like there shouldn't be an analog for Cyborg because he's the midpoint. He's the transition. He's the glue.
That's why I said Cyborg is the Cyborg.
He's the Cyborg. Yeah. Well, oh, and you know what? Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take it too far. Are you ready for me to take it too far? Cyborg.
Is Cyborg the Green Lantern? Is that
No. You're gonna love this. This is totally bogus, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it kind of works. The movie's not doing this on purpose, but it kind of works. And I'm sort of making fun of these movies up until now when I say this. But well, Cyborg kind of has two halves, right? He's got the human side, that's the Teen Titans side, and he's got the machine side, and that's the Justice League side.
Okay.
Because the Justice League in this are like are really cold and like machine like. And
and obviously
the
it's
Titans
tied,
are like
and obviously he's tied to Darkseid and Apocalypse and all of that. So that is a larger scale Justice League thing where his human side just wants to order pizza.
That's right.
Which, by the way, I love that he boom tubes to a pizza shop and then the boom tubes back with pizza. That is such an abuse of the boom tube.
He's like, I'll boom tube anywhere I want to. Thank you very much. I would. It's like you should start a boom tube company, like a pizza delivery chain that boom tubes pizza to people.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to talk about is the title and the fact that we made this yet another Versus thing this year of all year, as that's not a coincidence.
I was going to ask, do you think that this is intentionally on the heels of Batman v Superman, Justice League versus Teen Titans? Do you think that's what it's supposed to be? It's supposed to be the zeitgeist of that?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think this is the year of superheroes fighting, and it's cashing in on that.
Okay.
And thinks that putting the Versus in there might sell more copies. The thing that's weird about and I imagine that because I've read some that a lot of people aren't liking this just like they haven't liked the other ones, and I'm surprised by how happy we were with it. But I'm sure one of the things that drove people crazy about it, and this is fair, is that you say Justice League versus Teen Titans, so that implies that the point is a big conflict between the two teams.
It's not.
Of course, it's not really. And I do think that it's awkward that we and I did think that this was kind of contrived. It's awkward that we set up a scene where we have the two sides and they're about to fight just as themselves, and then we get the Justice League possessed, and then we have the fight.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's fair.
In the moment, that was kind of weird. I appreciated the fact that they didn't actually come to blows, because I wasn't really sure that I totally bought that's where that would go. That these two teams would actually come to physical blows, over what they were fighting over. But then the problem is, in that scene, they would have if it weren't for aliens possessing them.
I don't know if they would have come to blows, but
they were about to fight. I mean, Sapphire tried to stop it, but they had their they were all poised to pounce.
Did you say Sapphire?
Yes, then that's not what I meant.
Did you mean Starfire?
I meant Starfire. Yes. There's a lot of characters in this, and it's 1 a.m.
None of them are named Sapphire, though.
No, I know, but I keep thinking. I keep having to stop myself from saying Star Sapphire. I keep almost saying that.
Oh, that's fair.
That
is also a character in this universe.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever. But anyway, so I don't know. Did the Versus thing annoy you that they called it that, and that's not really what it is? I mean, it's sort of that. I mean, it's sort of that in that there is fighting of superheroes against each other because of possession, but the main one is actually kind of Superman and Wonder Woman at the end. It's not even really the Titans versus anybody in the Justice League, really.
Well, it would bother me as much as Assault on Arkham being called Batman Assault on Arkham. At least in this case, well, in that case too. I understand they did for marketing reasons, and I'm glad it's not the movie that the title sells, because I would much rather a movie that's more focused on the Teen Titans, which is what this is. In the same way that I'm glad Assault on Arkham was just a Suicide Squad movie, and Batman was barely in it. So no, it doesn't bother me. It would bother me if it was the movie was selling me.
Yeah, which I totally expected it to be. So weird. I mean, and maybe part of the reason that I ended up liking this as much as I did is because I was expecting nothing from it. And of course, I liked the last one more than you did. But
you know what's going to happen, right?
But this is leaps and bounds above that, I think.
You know what's going to happen, right? So we always dog in these movies, and then the comments are like, "Oh, it's not as bad as you say it is. I liked this. You guys are crazy. We're going to like this one. Everyone's going, what are you talking about? This
was awful. Why?
That's just going to happen."
Yeah, I've been thinking that too. That is probably what will happen. And I don't know. I feel like
I'm going to say this is the best. This is the best film they have done since Flashpoint Paradox. I probably like this equal to God's Monsters. Like, is it God's Monsters? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I mean that's not in this continuity, but
no. I'm saying. I probably like it about as much as that. I probably like this a little bit more, even though I don't think it's as good of a movie. I really liked all the Teen Titans stuff. I like it more than Assault on Arkham. But yeah, no, I was so happy that I got one of these that I liked, which might be making me like it more. But I was
just
really
because your expectations were so low in the first place. Yeah, I'm really interested to see how many people had the surprisingly positive reaction to this that we did.
Yeah, especially since you're saying you saw people saying it was bad. I just want to let everyone know Steve liked this. Steve thought this was good.
Obviously, there's no right or wrong answer. If you really didn't like this, there are lots of reasons to not like a lot of things in it, as we were talking about earlier. It's not perfect, and it does some of that same stuff that we didn't like before. I'm still not a big fan of this animation.
It's fine. It's like I'm not saying it's great, but it doesn't bother me either.
So like if people hated this, I totally understand that, but I was just surprised that I didn't. And
I don't understand if they hated it, but they liked the previous 4 or 5. That I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know.
This as an isolated incident, or someone who also hasn't liked the previous ones. I mean, if they hated it, they hated it.
Yeah. Well, leave your comments, let us know, and in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And we'll see you next time.